Hi again, it's Dana Booth, National Education Manager for AmeriFirst Financial and Educate to Earn, and welcome to Fast Track to Inspired Speaking Part 3. We're going to take you further down the continuum to speaking to inspire action. We're going to teach you how to speak to be inspiring. So, let's get started. Today we're going to cover speaking on things you know and care about and applying research to win the listing. We're also going to talk about what to do if you get stuck. So let's get started. I'm a firm believer in the theory that people only do their best at things they truly enjoy. It is difficult to excel at something you don't enjoy. That's Jack Nicklaus, one of the all-time great golfers of the world. And I think that's true. I think there are some people that are made to be in the loan business and some people that aren't. And if you're one of those people that are made to be in the business, you've got to enjoy what you do. Thinking about speaking and going from a place where you're not confident about speaking to becoming confident is tough to do. It's hard to like that process. But you have to focus on your why, you have to focus on the goals, and you have to focus on the practice. Speak confidently about what you know, and be careful not to say too much about what you don't know. I think that's really, really important, that if you're going to get up there and talk about a subject, you've really got to talk about what you know, and to know it takes practice. So how do I gain confidence? The answer comes in preparation and research. So once you've researched and prepared, it's time to rehearse. And that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about speaking, going into your own little place of becoming an actor, just like I'm doing for this presentation here. So speak confidently about what you know about. Be careful not to say too much about what you don't know. We can't be an expert on everything, and too often we're made to feel like we need to be. I think that's the big mistake a lot of loan officers make, is they try to be an expert on everything. Know what you know, and if you don't know, defer. If we truly show up to give, again, there's that phrase again, show up to give. We'll give the best of what we have and be honest about what we don't have to give. When we try to be an expert about something, we can be perceived as inauthentic, and the rest of our message can suffer. So that's why the preparation is so important. When you're doing a CE class, you've got to really know each slide inside out, backwards, forward. Then you've got to bring your own material to the class so you can really put your own particular brand on it. People will listen to you if you're humble and vulnerable. The trick is to impart some key points to help the student, not to make them an expert. And that's really important, is that when you're doing a class, there's one or two, three, maybe four ideas or bullet points you're going to impart on people. So you don't really have to teach them everything about the class. You're going to run into people that are going to want to ask questions, want more detail, need more information. Those people that are analysis by paralysis and so forth. But really and truly, you want to be humble and vulnerable, get some key points across, and not make them an expert. I'm not an expert in the subject, but I've done a little research, and I'm going to share with you what I've noticed. It's a good thing to say at the start. You know, I wouldn't call myself an expert in this subject, but I've done a little research, and I'm going to share with you what I've noticed. You know, a lot of times I'll have someone in a class say, well, who are you, and why should I listen to you? I mean, they'll literally say that. And I'll say, listen, here's who I am. I'm a guy who wakes up inspired every morning to inspire others. And I get in front of 500 realtors a month, and what I get to do is find out what's working and not working with those 500 realtors, and that's what I share with you. So in other words, I project myself as more of a messenger than an authority on the subject. Eating words has never given me indigestion, Winston Churchill. And so the moral there is that you don't have to be an expert. You can misspeak now and then and be okay. One of the things I hear a lot is I only want to teach when I know. I'm not knowledgeable with the information, don't feel confident. Well, that's an indication that you've got to get to the point where you're confident with it. Those same people rarely sit down with me and say, I want to go through every slide and I want to know what you're thinking when you wrote this slide. They want to get up there, spend as little work as possible, give a talk, and be effective, and it just doesn't happen. It takes hard work to know your subject. So how do I do research to become intimate with my subject and thus become passionate about it? Let's just repeat that. How do I do research to become intimate with my subject and thus become passionate about it? Such a great statement. And the answer is, start with Google. You can Google anything. Just Google it. When researching Win the Listing, I found a publication called ZMOT. ZMOT stands for Zero Moment of Truth. It's an actual ebook written by Google. It talks about the mindset of Google. And what better subject to know more about when you're talking about Win the Listing? Teaching a subject is much more than knowing the PowerPoint. You have to find the purpose, the clear message. In the Win the Listing class, for example, my message, my purpose is I'm going to teach you 5 or 6 different skills that will help you not only present to a seller and become a listing agent, but to flourish as a listing agent and to gain listing appointments. And those 5 or 6 things are single property websites, blogging and search engine optimization, video, social media, and so forth. Win the Listing Before the Appointment is about life in a Google world as a real estate agent. And that's a simple way to put it. It's about life in our Google world. When I start this class, I'll talk to people and say, okay, show me the hands if you've Googled something in the last 30 days. And there's rarely one person in the class that hasn't done that. And so I Googled, to prepare for this, Google. I Googled Google. And here's a few ideas I found on ZMOT that are not on the PowerPoint. ZMOT is the new mentality. Zero Moment of Truth stems from the original idea of the first moment of truth, which was invented by Birdseye Foods. Birdseye always ended their commercial by saying, look for it in your grocer's freezer section. So not only did they tell you to get in your car, they told you to go to the grocery store, and they told you when you got in the grocery store to go to the freezer section, look for our brand, grab it, and pay for it. That was called the first moment of truth. The zero moment of truth is a mom waiting to pick up her son after practice or a game, let's say, in a different part of town than she's used to. She's going online with her mobile device, her phone, and she's Googling where the nearest Walgreens is, and then Googling for a coupon, and already purchasing the product before she walks in the store. That's an example of ZMOT. ZMOT is the core training for all members of Google sales teams. That's kind of interesting. The zero moment of truth will change the way that people buy everything from a tube of toothpaste to a car to a piece of real estate. The average shopper used 10.4 sources of information to make a decision in 2011, up from 5.3 in 2010. What that tells us is the average shopper is online doing more research, fast, quick research, getting answers quickly. Whether it's going to check ratings on a restaurant, or it's finding research on a particular consumer product, it's up from 5.3 in 2010 to 10.4 in 2011. Recipes make up 1% of all Google searches. Now, when you have a fun fact like this and you share it with a group in a class, you're basically telling them that I know this subject so well that I've got little intricate little bits of trivia that I can share with you on the subject. It really brings your point across, really gives your authenticity a boost. 20% of all searches are local, but this goes up to 40% when you switch to a mobile device. In other words, when you're Googling, 20% of all Google searches are local, but when you have a mobile device, it means you're on the road, and more than almost 50% of the time you're searching locally. 2/3 of us sleep with our smartphones right beside us. That's 3 billion people who have their smartphones with them day and night. So again, one little click in Google finds this information, this piece of information that just makes me sound like I'm so much more knowledgeable about my subject, that I'm just not rehashing someone else's PowerPoint. So you see how I just used a bit of research to sound like an expert, when the expert really is the book. So what do I do if I get stuck on stage? And that's one thing I get a lot, is people saying, well, gosh, I think I might just get up there and freeze. Well, it can happen. It happens to me. Speaking is not a place for perfection. That's by Roberto Monaco, one of my idols in speaking. Roberto's a man that came from Brazil, went to work for Tony Roberts, and was told that he couldn't sell Tony Roberts because he can barely speak English, and he said, well, just give me a chance. They did, and he became the #1 seller for Tony Roberts. and now he has his own speaking company. Remember that your goal is to be yourself, not some expert. Remember that your goal is to be you, not somebody else. You only need to be the best you when you get up there and talk. When you're in front of a group that's willing to listen and you've shown up to give, there it is again, you don't have to be perfect. You're delivering a free gift, and nobody doesn't like a gift. So what if I get stuck? Number one, you can go quiet. Just go quiet. Just be silent. Sometimes I'll have so many thoughts in my head that I want to deliver. I'll be so excited about my message that I'll just lose my place, and I'll have to look at the crowd and go, wait a minute, where was I? And I think that some people can laugh at that. Some people can say, wow, isn't he crazy? And other people will say, maybe that's a sign of intelligence. Maybe he's so engaged in what he's trying to tell me that he's just got so much in him. And hopefully that's the message. So a little silence is okay. And sometimes I'll just go quiet, take a drink of water, pause and say, 1 minute, got to have a little drink of water. Provides a little time to find your place. And if you've gone quiet, taken a drink of water, allowed for some silence, and you're still lost, do what I do. Address your humanness. Ask the audience, wait, where was I? And then talk, and somebody will bring you back to normal. And then when they say where you were, you can just pick it right back up and go forward. Again, I think it delivers a lot of authenticity and just says, I'm a human being. I'm absolutely fallible. I'm not in an ivory tower here. I'm not better than you. I'm just a human, and I'm delivering a message to try and help you. I'm showing up to give. So, talk about how much energy and emotion and excitement you have, and so much to share, and sometimes you just lose your place. And then I'll say to them, hey, you guys just keep me on track. Make sure you keep me on track, because I'm a little crazy. I'm like a mad scientist up here trying to help you guys get better at what you're doing. Celebrate your fallibility. Laugh at yourself. This is not about perfection. It never will be. That's the good news. So, we're done with section 3. And for your homework, I want you to pick a class, do a bit of Google research on it, and come up with a way that you can insert that information during the class. Learn that research and own it. Go through the PowerPoint and see how many slides the research applies to. And also go through the PowerPoint, look at every slide and say, do I know the slide? I didn't write it, so maybe I'll contact Dana, the author, and say, well, what were you thinking when you wrote this slide? What's your opinion on it? It's amazing how many people do that, how few people do that. Hardly anybody ever calls me and say, hey, this one slide's been bugging me. Tell me what you're thinking when you wrote it. So we're ending Module 3 now. We're going to go to Module 4 next, and we're going to talk about 3 types of audience members. This will be very useful for you. Number 1 is the prisoner. Number 2 is the tourist, and number 3 is the partner. Remember, one person in an audience could change your life. I want you to stay with this. I want you to commit to this. I want you to get through that awful portion of discomfort that inevitably comes when you're growing. So thanks for your time. I want you to know I'm engaged in your progress and your success, and we'll see you in Module 4.